Well, hello class. This video is about how to write a term paper for this particular class, and it's really quite easy. Term papers basically are written in order to test your knowledge on whether you have the ability to grasp the concept of the course in general. Now, since this course is about leadership, this is what I am recommending you do to write your term paper. The term paper can be started actually from May 23rd, from the first time that the class actually starts. Even if you are online before that, you can start gathering your ideas for the term paper. Now essentially the term paper is going to be worth really 25% of your grade. But don't panic because you do it in stages. Now, the first thing is deciding what you want to write about. No one essentially writes about things that they are uninterested in. So there are so many things you can write about in leadership. I'm giving you the autonomy to decide what it is that you want to write about. So essentially what I'm asking you to do is choose a topic covered on the syllabus that interests you and what we are studying in this course, and maybe even after listening to some of the guest speakers, and answer the following questions when you decide what topic you want to write about. When you put an outline together, ask yourself the following questions, and I write these things right on your syllabus. What leadership guidelines are you going to be discussing? What real-life concepts are you going to be relating to? Research, identify, and give examples. For example, say you wanted to compare in your paper great leaders like Gandhi or maybe Donald Trump. I don't know. But whatever leaders you compare and contrast, you want to be able to give examples of why you think that. And that is the whole point of doing research. Or say you want to talk about some of the leadership theories. Or maybe you want to refer to one of the leadership practices that one of the guest speakers are talking about. For example, say you wanted to talk about servant leadership. Well, what leaders display servant leadership? Give examples and illustrations, and be able to back up your data with good solid references. Analyze and draw conclusions on what you have researched. And finally, talk about why this topic you chose interested you. And do you feel that you have satisfactorily completed your research? So here it goes. Here's the, if you will, the 9, I'm only kidding, the few easy steps, as they say, writing essays for dummies, okay? Or keep it simple, stupid, KISS. What you want to do is this. The first thing you want to do is make an outline. Create what is called a hypothesis. And what is a hypothesis? It's where do you think your research interests you and why you decided to choose this topic before you even do it. Say, for example, you think both, I'll go back to that example, Donald Trump is a great leader. Or you think Hillary Clinton's a great leader. Or you think Genghis Khan or Adolf Hitler was a great leader. Or do you think that John Lennon was a great leader? Or Pope Francis? Whatever you decide to choose, without having done your research, that is what your hypothesis is going to be about. It's a simple statement. Let's take Pope Francis, for example. You may think Pope Francis is a great leader. So your hypothesis might be, I think Pope Francis is a great leader because he practices servant leadership. Now, you haven't done your research yet, but this is what your hypothesis is set out to prove. And your hypothesis basically states what you think now without actually doing your research. So now, once you've developed your hypotheses, you then establish 4 or 5 goals that back up your hypotheses. So goal number 1 might be, Pope Francis is a great leader because he practices great humility. So you would do some research in how he does that. Your second goal might be, Pope Francis is a proponent of servant leadership. Well, then you would research servant leadership as your second goal and figure out how that second goal backs that up. Your third goal might be, servant leadership is very effective, and Pope Francis exemplifies this by these examples. Now your third goal is going to be researching how Pope Francis backs up servant leadership. And then I think you get the point. So if you come up with 4 or 5 goals that back up that hypothesis, then each one of those goals now becomes a separate section of your paper. No brainer, right? So how long should each section be? Maybe 1.5 pages or 2 pages with the research to back it up. So if you come up with 5 goals to back up your hypothesis and you come up with 1.5 to 2 pages, you got 10 pages of your paper done with the research. Finally, your outline will lead to a summary section. Now that summary section should only be like 1.5 pages to your paper. So what you do is you get 1 or 2 sentences that highlight each one of those goals that back up your hypotheses, and that becomes a part of your summary. Take a core component or something key from each one of the goals that you've researched, and that becomes your summary. Then, finally, you draw a conclusion page. Your conclusion page should only be like 1.5 pages, or 1 page even. And what that does, that conclusion basically summarizes one of the key points that you brought up in each one of your goals, and it explains whether or not you proved your hypothesis is why. And why. So, if you prove that Pope Francis was a great leader, then you essentially proved your hypotheses, and you found that out because you realized through your research that yes, indeed, he did practice servant leadership. If you found out it wasn't servant leadership and it was something else in your conclusion, again, you compare your conclusion to your hypotheses, and you basically say, well, based on my research, he didn't practice servant leadership, but it was more transformational leadership or something else. The paper's done. The only thing you're going to do after that is come up with a reference sheet. And that reference sheet is going to list all of your research by references. Now, you can do this by using APA style or MLA, whichever you choose. Whatever you decide to do in your paper, okay, whatever type of formatting, just let me know what that is. Once you've done your outline, I'm here to make comments on that and help you out. feel free to use me as a source. That is all you need to do when your paper is done. And like I said, you could start after the first class. So that's my spiel on writing a paper. Any questions?